Hello and welcome to The Icon. We asked 3 households.
My name's Clementine and I'm 10. I'm John. I'm 8 years old, aged like a week ago now.
Hi, I'm Alid.
I'm Karis. I'm Susie.
I'm Stefan.
Hi, I'm Taya.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Ben.
To ask immigration lawyer Colin Yeo
Hi, Colin.
Hello.
their questions about Paddington Bear and immigration.
Can I ask, Paddington and Aunt Lucy think that the UK is going to be welcoming. What's the perception of those seeking asylum in the UK of our immigration system before they arrive here?
Well, some research has been done into that. So people have asked migrants who want to come to the UK or have come to the UK about why they want to come here. And it seems to be a bit of a mix. People, first of all, don't really know what to expect. They don't know how they're going to be treated here. You know, some people think migrants come for benefits or housing. That's not really the case. They don't expect that sort of thing when they get here. But also, they come from countries where they get quite badly treated and there's some pretty nasty things going on. And they've heard that the UK respects human rights, and they kind of listen to things like the BBC abroad and stuff like that. And they have this impression that we treat people very well over here, and that's why we sometimes intervene in their countries and go there and try to help people. And so they expect to be sort of just treated with respect when they get here.
When Paddington came to the UK on the boat, was that illegal? And if so, what would happen?
The way that Paddington came to the UK was illegal, basically. He does break the law by coming in, unless he can show he's a refugee. So it's a bit complicated. There are lots of laws that stop people from just coming in without permission and from smuggling themselves in a boat or in a plane or something like that. But then there's another special law which stops refugees from being prosecuted, because as a refugee, it's impossible to get a visa, it's impossible to apply to an embassy and so on to make safe journeys. So the Refugee Convention protects refugees from being prosecuted for crossing borders illegally. So it is illegal, but at the same time, it's not if you're actually a refugee.
If the authorities had told Paddington that he couldn't stay in the UK, would they have forced him to leave, or would he have been left in the UK with no help to look after himself?
Well, it's a bit of both. So if an asylum seeker doesn't succeed in their case, and actually most of them do, in fact about 70 to 75% of asylum seekers, that's basically about 3/4 of them, do get recognised as refugees or given status of one sort or other. But if they don't, the small number who don't, some of them are removed by the government and they get sent back to the countries that they came from. But what often happens first is that they're just sort of kicked out of their accommodation, they're not allowed any support from the government, and a lot of them seem to just disappear because they've got no way of staying in touch, and they're supposed to keep on sort of going along to the Home Office and reporting once a month or something like that, but they don't have any money to do that, and they're a bit afraid anyway of being sent back to countries that they're scared of, even if they don't have good asylum claims.
The Browns had actually taken Paddington to the authorities, what would have happened to him and where would they have taken him?
Well, it depends a bit whether Paddington is a child or not, and it's not completely clear from the books and the films whether he is. He has slightly childlike qualities and he seems very naive, but it's never explicitly stated that he is actually a child or under the age of 18. But if you are under the age of 18, if you're a child when you arrive in the UK, then the authorities try to look after you and take good care of you. They try to set you up with foster parents and accommodation and make sure that you're properly looked after as a child. If you're over the age of 18, then you are entitled to some support. It's a lot less than people in this country would normally get, but you can be provided with accommodation and things like that.
The Browns took Paddington in. Would they have got into trouble for not handing him over to the authorities?
Well, I think they'd have got into really big trouble. They'd have done something really quite wrong if Paddington was a real child. So, it's completely wrong to be taking in a strange child and even with the best of intentions looking after them. So that really shouldn't happen, and that child should be flagged up with social services where they can be properly cared for and placed with a supervised foster family and so on. But in terms of actually being nice to a migrant and welcoming in an adult refugee to your home, it's completely lawful to do that. There are some things that refugees and migrants aren't allowed to do, so they're not allowed to work, they're not entitled to full British benefits and things like that, or housing. So you have to be a little bit careful about those sorts of things. But just in terms of bringing an adult refugee into your house and living with them and looking after them and offering them a home, there's nothing wrong with that, and it's certainly not illegal.
Do real bears like marmalade?
No, I don't think they do. I'm really sorry. I really wish that they did. And I don't know if you can see, but I make my own marmalade, and I've got some behind me on my shelf. But apparently, actual bears don't really like marmalade very much.
Thank you.
In Paddington 2, Paddington had a job. If he was a human and this was today, would he have been able to work?
Yeah, he has a number of jobs actually, doesn't he, in the second film, and he's not very good at some of them, I noticed. That is a bit of a problem. But because he's a migrant, or he seems to be a refugee, he's not normally allowed to work actually, and there are quite strict rules about asylum seekers. So no, he wouldn't be allowed to get a paid job until he was properly recognised as a refugee.
At the end of the second film, aren't they seeking to visit? How easy would it be for family from other countries to come and visit?
It can be quite difficult for family members to get a visit visa to come to the UK, and particularly if they come from a poor country, and particularly if they haven't travelled before, because the authorities sometimes they suspect that somebody might not go back when they're supposed to. So a visit visa is supposed to be just for 6 months, and if the authorities think that you're going to stay on for longer than that, or try and work or something like that, then they'll basically refuse you permission to come to the UK. And that can be a particular problem for elderly relatives, because in the books and the film, Aunt Lucy, she's fairly elderly, that's one of the points. And it can be quite difficult for elderly relatives to get visit visas, even more so than other relatives, because the authorities tend to assume that they're going to want to stay on with the family or something like that.
Mr. Brown was quite concerned for his family's safety when they took Paddington in, and quite often members of the British public can have similar concerns over increased immigration and taking refugees in, over the safety in our country as well. So do you have any information or statistics as to how valid these concerns could be?
Well, I can tell you that there's a great charity called Refugees at Home, and they do basically what the Browns do with Paddington. So they offer places in people's homes to refugees, and they work with those people to make sure they're properly prepared, they know what to expect, and to make sure there's a proper welcoming environment for the refugee as well. And they've had, I think, thousands of refugees placed with just ordinary families and ordinary people around the country, and they've had, I don't think, really any significant problems at all. So, and you know, that kind of thing is happening all the time around the UK as we speak. In terms of kind of general statistics, migrants aren't any worse behaved than normal British people. They're just people when it comes down to it. And yes, maybe there are a handful of criminals, but there are in the UK as well. It's just that there's no difference basically between migrants and British people. There's some good ones, and there's a handful of bad ones perhaps as well. But that's just because they're people.
If Paddington had become ill or got injured, would he have been able to go to hospital for free like us?
Well, it's a really good question. It's quite a difficult question actually, because the rules are, if you're a migrant to the UK, then you're allowed to register with a GP, and you're also allowed to get emergency care, like if you have a car accident or somebody runs you over or something like that. But you're not allowed to get other kind of non-urgent treatments, generally speaking. So at the moment, as we're speaking, there's a big illness going around. There's a sort of pandemic going on, and there can be exceptions to those rules. So I think Paddington would be allowed to get the vaccine, for example, for coronavirus, because there's a special rule about that. But normally, migrants aren't allowed to get ordinary treatment on the NHS, only emergency treatment.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like. Here at the icon, we're going to be making so many more videos like this, so make sure you hit subscribe. We'd love you to join the immigration conversation, so please leave us a comment down below. Bye for now.